the players and what it cost one footy champion. Ross Coulthart with this tell-all report.
Daryn Cresswell from 35 metres.
Drop punt for goal. He's kicked it. This one's a win. What a game of football.
You're never going to look forward or go forward unless you start owning up to your mistakes.
Oh, what a mark, Daryn Cresswell.
Jail's been good for me. It's given me a lot of time to reflect and a lot of time to take ownership of the carnage I've made.
Daryn Cresswell now runs to control the gambling addiction that destroyed his life. 8 years ago, he was one of the Sydney Swans Players of the Century. Today, there's a long line of angry friends, family and creditors in his wake.
But we have a serious situation with the unfortunate Daryn Cresswell.
How much do you think you lost, all told?
Close to $1 million.
So you've lost all your houses?
Everything.
You've lost your family?
Everything.
Two weekends ago, he walked out of a Queensland jail after serving 10 months for defrauding a bank to fuel his compulsive gambling. Waiting for him was his girlfriend, Jo. Now that he's out, he wants to speak out about gambling and sport.
Gambling's a huge problem. I just don't think it should be allowed.
And there are a lot of players doing it.
I've known of players doing it. Yes, I have.
Did you ever gamble on your own games?
Once.
Did you make money out of it?
Yep.
With 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining. Oh, what a mark! Daryn Cresswell. Inside 50, a mark. Daryn Cresswell.
Outplayed by Daryn Cresswell.
Daryn Cresswell steadies. It's a high kick. He's there. He's there. Scored.
Over 11 years with the Swans, Daryn Cresswell forged a formidable reputation.
Daryn Cresswell from 35 metres.
He comes in deliberately. Drop punt for goal. He's kicked it. The Swans have won. What a game of football. The Swans have won by 3 points.
His physical toughness was legendary, especially during one notable game where he rammed a dislocated kneecap back into place.
He's trying to put his knee in, Cresswell. Look at him banging his knee, look.
But from childhood, his life off the field was tougher.
I can't think of any other prominent person who's had such tragedy in his family life. You had a brother, Scott, who was drowned at 5. You had another brother, Bradley, who died from cot death. 2006, there was a third brother, Paul, who died from an illness. And then your dad, he was drowned.
Yeah. I lost my way a bit when I lost my dad. And
Now they're about to come out the Sydney Swans.
From the outside, though, it looked to all like he had the perfect life. That same year, he'd married Donna, his teenage sweetheart. Children came, his career took off, and the money was rolling in.
He's kicked it very, very well to goal.
Money was good. We were doing well. We were travelling along. It was a fairy tale.
So you were building up quite a healthy property portfolio.
That's right.
And there was every prospect of a long, happy, wealthy life together.
We were hoping basically to set ourselves up for the future.
When did the gambling first start?
end of 2002.
How'd you get into it?
I actually bought a car, BMW, through a former jockey, or a jockey, he's still a jockey, who we knew quite well.
Who was that?
Darren Beedman.
The champion jockey invited Cresswell to the races, and Darren's first bet was a big win. A $200 punt paid him $12,000.
Tell me about that first bet.
It was at Canterbury one Thursday night, 2 horses. The first one paid $5.50 and got up, and the second one won in a photo, which paid $11 and something $11,500, $12,000 out of 200 was the first bet I ever put on.
From that moment, Daryn was hooked.
Now, at this time, you were a very wealthy man, weren't you?
Yeah.
What sort of assets did you have? How much money did you have?
At this stage, I had a $1.7 million property on the water in Hawthorn, in Brisbane, and I had 2 properties at the Sunshine Coast.
In 2003, Daryn retired as a player, but stayed in the game as an assistant coach at various clubs.
I didn't have that adrenaline rush of playing footy, and I was a pretty lonely sort of person, to be honest.
Why did Daryn gamble?
When he finished footy, he wasn't getting the big footy salaries. So he basically thought it was a quick dollar, and it got him in. Daryn, I always said to Daryn, he's physically fit and strong, but mentally weak.
Talk me through a typical day.
A typical day would be buy the paper, straight to the form guide, make a few phone calls to see if there's any tips running around, and basically get it on the internet at work and start looking at the fields, prices, and start betting pretty much all day.
What size bets?
Oh, Ross, anywhere from $1,000 to $20,000 on a horse.
So you were making $20,000 bets?
Yeah.
And when you were doing that, were you conscious that this is just insane?
No, I wasn't. I was my thought process was just clouded by winning and betting. Nothing else come into the equation whatsoever.
We basically didn't exist. The children didn't exist, I didn't exist. Daryn's life revolved around gambling.
How much did you gamble?
I had a good think about this the other day. When you're in jail for 10 months, you think about a lot of things, and I would have gambled. I would have lost $1 million.
$1 million?
No question. When you can't meet obligations, house repayments, childcare, car payments, you realise I'm in pretty deep here. How am I going to get out of this?
He kept betting in the desperate hope he'd win enough to bail himself out. And every step of the way, Daryn was funded by ever-obliging bookies.
Do you think bookies were giving your husband credit to gamble when they knew he was addicted to gambling?
Of course. They don't care. They don't care that it's ruining a family's life. They don't care. As long as they're getting him to make that bet, they don't care.
And so what's going on in your head there? Why do you keep on gambling?
It's not real money, mate, like, to be honest. When you're betting with bookies and that, it's plastic, mate. It's not money. It's not cash like you're handing over. It's just a figure. It's just numbers. Everything I had, I was trying to win back to pay people that I owed, to try and pay the rent, try and pay for cars, try and pay for the kids' education. And in the end, Ross, I had 2 attempts to try and end it all.
You actually tried to kill yourself?
Twice.
What happened?
I just took a heap of tablets and poison that one day, and I made myself pretty ill.
Who found you?
No, I was just by myself. I just woke up really sick and vomiting and headachy and just pretty much in a bad way. And one other time I went for a run, one of the main highways in Tasmania, and I was just going to jump in front of the car. The only thing that stopped me was the kids.
Did you ever talk to your wife?
No.
What could have helped Daryn?
If he wasn't allowed to get credit in advance, Daryn wouldn't have got to the stage where he was out of control.
For a long time, Donna didn't know. Daryn didn't tell. Then she started finding letters of demand hidden in cupboards, bookies banging on the door, and bank statements that made no sense.
I mean, this is frightening. You've got a... you leap. You can just see over a period of months here, your mortgage goes from... At one stage, you're doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden you're hundreds of thousands and then millions in the red. I think you told me you had to go and get food parcels from the Salvos once.
Yeah, I did.
Did that feel humiliating?
Oh, of course. Of course.
And this is all because of gambling?
Exactly.
In 2008, with debt consuming their lives, Daryn quit his job and took off. Without telling Donna, he bolted to London with another woman, Joanne Foster, who's now his partner.
One day he was there, next day he was gone. What sort of father does that to their children?
Yeah, I'm pretty embarrassed about that. It was a shameful thing I did, and walked out of my family. And, but to be honest, Ross, when I got to England, I could actually breathe again. There was no gambling. I could walk down the street, not thinking that people are looking at me. I felt alive again, to be honest. Like, I just felt I could breathe properly.
But Daryn's mounting debts were suffocating, and back here in Australia, police were investigating. When Daryn returned from overseas, he was in the frame for criminal fraud. A fellow gambler owed him money and offered to remortgage his house to repay the debt. He asked Cresswell to sign the loan documents on his behalf.
What did you think you'd signed?
I'd signed my mate's signature on his property that he owned, that he told me I could sign. That's what I thought I was doing.
But he'd lied to you, hadn't he?
That's correct.
What had he done?
Well, it wasn't his property.
Did you know he was doing that?
No, not at all.
But you did do something very bad, didn't you?
I signed his name.
So there were two loans that you put someone else's signature on.
Correct.
In 2005, I think it was 80,000.
Yeah.
In 2006, it was 240,000.
Yeah.
Now, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Where did it go?
To the betting agencies.
You gambled it?
Gambled it.
A lot of people watching this who don't have a gambling addiction, Daryn, will be thinking, he's crazy. Why didn't he just stop?
I couldn't. I couldn't. It was an everyday thing. I was like an alcoholic. I couldn't stop, and I didn't understand what I was doing, but I was just doing it, and I was just completely out of control. I couldn't stop.
On July the 7th, 2009, Daryn Cresswell was arrested and extradited from Sydney to Brisbane. In December last year, he was sentenced to 3 years jail, 10 months non-parole. Gambling had cost him everything.
Daryn was a very selfish person.
He says he's very ashamed of what he's done.
I don't think he could be ashamed enough.
And when you heard he'd gone to jail, what was your response?
It's all over. It's a relief. Everything's out there. Nothing can hurt us anymore.
Did you ever gamble on your own game?
It's flawless.
It's a very friendly neighborhood.
Looking for a new home?
It's to die for.
It's a killer market out there.
Crap.
When more than this sale turns to ash.
What's up?
Daryn, I should actually say, if I ask you this question, if it's a positive one, you have to acknowledge that it's an offence to do it. But did you ever gamble on your own games?
Once.
Did you make money out of it?
Yep.
You realise what you're admitting there, don't you?
It's round one action. Sydney and Carlton from Telstra Stadium.
The match Daryn Cresswell bet on was a Swans game against Carlton in 2003. He bet on a Swans win.
It was just a win bet. It was a small wager, it wasn't a large one, it was $200.
Does that sort of thing go on a lot?
I reckon it does.
Looking back, obviously, it was a stupid thing to do. And
in July, after betting his captain would kick the first goal against Adelaide, Collingwood defender Heath Shaw was suspended.
I haven't got a gambling problem, like I said. It was just a naive, stupid thing at the time.
Last month, after placing several bets on his own team and lying when confronted, Essendon assistant coach Dean Wallace was suspended.
Ryan, are you disappointed with the result?
10 days ago, Canterbury Rugby League forward Ryan Tandy was criminally convicted.
He's brought down by Ennis and also Tandy. Ugly-looking tackle.
Tandy deliberately gave away a penalty in the first minutes of this game. His alleged syndicate, seen here on CCTV, stood to win over $100,000 if the North Queensland Cowboys kicked the first points from a penalty goal.
And the penalty comes right in front of the posts.
There's been a rash of allegations of players gambling on their own game, most recently Ryan Tandy. Is it a problem?
Well, we don't believe it is, because we believe we've got very good systems in place to detect that, and I think the Ryan Tandy situation just proves that the system's working.
Michael Sullivan, one of Australia's biggest bookies, CEO of two of Australia's biggest betting agencies, Sportingbet and Centrebet. Sullivan sponsors 6 league teams and 2 AFL teams. But even he feels the way betting is being spruiked in big television games is too much.
And on TAB Sportsbet, it is the Seagulls, $1.47.
It's called integrated betting.
Courtesy of that late try to Kieran Foran, Manly now into $1.12 to win the grand final of 2011.
Betting dressed up as commentary.
Quite frankly, I think there might have been a line crossed here. And as a matter of fact, my company has made a legitimate decision not to get involved in that sort of advertising of the odds.
Why?
Well, because I just think it's enough. It's just too much in your face, especially when you consider you are in a situation where there are kids under 18 watching the games.
The temptation to bet has never been greater, not just for players, but for all of us. Gambling has gone mainstream on the small screen.
Gambling advertising, particularly sports betting, is in your face. It's everywhere. There's something really wrong when a 7-year-old can quote you the odds for a game rather than play statistics.
Australians love a punt, but Nick Xenophon believes we've gone too far.
Aren't you just being a bit of a wowser? People like a flutter.
Look, sure, people like a flutter, but people also don't like losing their homes, losing their families, losing everything they have because of a gambling addiction.
Daryn Cresswell's life is now a 10-hour working day while also raising 3 young children. They live in a rented house and rely on Centrelink benefits.
So how do you feel about gambling?
I hate it. Like I said, I know where hell is. I've been there.
What are your feelings towards Daryn?
There isn't any.
It's over.
It's over.
For Daryn Cresswell, it's a fresh start with his new partner, Joe. We caught up with him and a few of his mates on AFL Grand Final day.
So who controls the bank accounts, Daryn?
Joanne. I've got no access to any of the bank accounts or credit cards or anything.
Ron Barassi once called you the miracle man. It's got to be a miracle, isn't it, if you can control this addiction? Do you think you can do it?
I can do it. I've got too much to live for now. I've got 3 beautiful kids. I've got a wonderful partner. I can do it. I'm determined to do it, and I will do it.
Well, good luck.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Ross Coulthard with that report. And if you have a problem with gambling or know someone who does, you can go to our website for details on where you can find help. Next, a real cliffhanger, the dramatic story of a Sydney mum conquering the world's highest peaks and along the way saving the life of an SAS soldier.